to connect more people to the internet.
In Africa, I've been in Africa in a lot of places, including rural places. The availability of 3G and 4G sometimes is not prolific compared to in the urban areas. Maybe we as providers and vendors, we need to collaborate to ensure that this 3G and 4G also penetrate all the way to the rural areas and to the places where it is required the most, so that when we change these feature phones, the feature 2G phones to 3G, there are resources available to take over.
We have to address all the drivers of connectivity, right? We have to address issues like power, because there's no point in giving someone connectivity if they don't have access to power. You have to address issues like infrastructure. We still have not connected a lot of our countries. Yes, we have transformed and we've connected. We've added a lot more people on our networks, but we still have a lot of gaps that we need to address. Today, the most connected country is Morocco. In Morocco, is 88% of the people are connected. But if you look at the list in Africa, which is Congo, it's only 7%. I mean, these statistics are absolutely shocking.
The Africa Telecommunications Union Secretary General John Omo says Africa needs to focus on forward-looking digital infrastructure for economic emancipation.
Even between countries or inside countries, people are not collaborating well. If you walk the streets of Kampala, for example, today you see one ICT company digging infrastructure across the road. Tomorrow, 100 meters away from that, another company is digging for a duct, for a fiber across the road. Why can't we have an integrated infrastructure development plan for Kampala to say that if you're building a road in Kampala as a contractor, it is incumbent upon you to ensure that ducts are provided underground, so that if there's need to lay a fiber across the road, we don't have to dig it. The duct is already there. One just puts fiber in that duct, and it links across the road.
The AfricaCom 2023 conference, running under the theme Building Future-Oriented Digital Infrastructure for Africa, attracted ministers from Africa, ICT experts, and the private sector. The communications and technology ministers from African countries agreed to promote future-oriented intelligent digital infrastructure for Africa. Huawei, a global leader in information and communications technology, also showcased their latest innovations at the event, spanning from artificial intelligence, fintech, machine learning, gaming, and many more.
This largest technology event on the African continent happens at the time when the rest of the world is embracing machine learning, artificial intelligence, and 5G technology. But Africa is nowhere to be seen when it comes to this front. Industry players say that if Africa is to join the digital transformation drive, the African governments must prioritize investment in infrastructure and reducing on the cost of internet. I am Samuel Seno for Ubc TV News in Cape Town, South Africa.
Well, thank you, Samuel Senono. And now the Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness, Refugees and Management, Esther Anyakun, says that there is need for Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD member states, to increase large-scale resilience investors in water resource management in order to combat drought in the region. She made these remarks at the 9th Annual General Assembly of the IGAD Drought Disaster Resilience and Sustainability Initiative, IDRISI platform, which was held in Entebbe, reflecting on significant achievements made in the last 10 years of the Resilience and Sustainability Initiative and how to address the existing challenges. We have a detailed report.
General Assembly, we have member states from Djibouti, we have from Ethiopia, we have from Kenya, Uganda, and Sudan, South Sudan. They are all here, and we also have the entire team from the IGAD Secretariat. And our main discussion right now here is to see how all the semi-arid and arid areas are being catered for, because it has been a 10-year plan. So we are trying to take stock of what we have been doing as countries, because we all made different commitments. So what commitments did Uganda do, for example? What commitments did Kenya make? And this is why we are here. We are trying to do stock taking and see also to forge way forward for the next plan of this platform. We know very well that the dynamics are really changing. They are really changing, because what we have been thinking about in terms of only looking at drought, now things like, imagine right now the season we are in, it's El Nino. It's even raining in those semi-arid areas right now. So the dynamics are changing. So the conversation has to start changing in terms of planning, in terms of financing, resource mobilization, in how we are handling this issue. So me as a Minister of State from Uganda, I'm so happy that we have this entire regional meeting taking place here in Entebbe, and that means we have really to take the front stage to ensure that what we are discussing here is going to be implemented.
The region also, as a consequence of climate stress and fragility, is faced with a lot of issues of instability and conflicts. And therefore, that recognition gives us a very big responsibility as IGAD Secretariat and IGAD member states to ensure that we sustain and maintain the intention of the IGAD. That was to undertake drought resilience activities at community level, at regional level, so that we can protect our citizens, and more so from the current adverse effects of climate change, which has brought drought, but also floods, mudslides, as well as locusts in the region. And therefore, it also means that member states have to increase their level of investment into resilience building programs in all our communities, especially those lands which are arid and semi-arid.
Jovia ng'oyolekera ku lugendo luno olw'obulamu, nkuwa ekirabo eky'amaanyi agatazizibwa, amaanyi okulabibwa n'okuwulirwa mu mawanga ag'ewala ennyo, okutuuka buli wamu nga yadde togenzeeyo, ensi yonna ng'ekuli mu ngalo. Okutambula mu biseera n'okumanya buli kimu ekirina okumanyibwa. Jovia, kino kye kirabo kyange gy'oli.
Tewali kkomo ku ki ky'osobola okukola ku mukutu nnandameggwa ogwa MTN.
West Nile Education Trust Fund announces the 4th annual fundraising dinner to be hosted in Kampala at Kampala Parents Main Hall on Saturday, the 2nd of December 2023, starting at 4 p.m. The Trust Fund targets to support brilliant but needy students from West Nile region to join public universities to study selected professional courses. The fund is currently supporting 28 students in the different public universities across the country. The West Nile Education Trust Fund calls upon all education-loving individuals, corporations, organizations and all well-wishers and associates of West Nile to support this initiative. Tickets are on sale at 100,000 Ugandan shillings per person, 180,000 shillings for a couple, and a corporate table of 6 persons costs 1 million Ugandan shillings. For more information, you can contact Mr. Charles Drakapo on 0772 603 162, Mr. Robert Ejiku on 0772 522 619, and Ms. Carol Andama on 0772 760 210.
My name is Amos Muhinduki. I'm the chairperson Loans Committee for Chaka Central Produce Dealers Circle. We received the funds in 2021, so we have gone 2 years down the road. We got 30 million, but at the moment we have around 52 millions. We have 54 groups from within Chaka Central alone, and around 34 groups have benefited. We are expecting another funding from government so that we can also bring the other groups on board. We give them loans First of all, they pay shares and also save 10% of the loan amount that they want, and they take the loans for 6 months.
Welcome back. You're still watching the UBC Lunchtime News, broadcasting live from Nile Avenue. Now, the World Health Organization is worried about Africa lagging behind in diagnostics. The World Health Organization argues that increased proficiency in this area can ultimately lead to a stronger and more equitable healthcare system, as well as a healthier workforce. Let's have a look at the details.
A health facility near you, you meet your doctor, tell him or her your problems, like you have a headache, sporadic stomach aches, your eyes are itchy, and of course you have joint pains. And they end up writing you a prescription, they tell you to go home. According to the World Health Organization, 70% of healthcare facilities in Africa are going through this problem, which is resulting to a catastrophe, which is misdiagnosis.
Final clinical decisions depend on accurate laboratory diagnosis. Yet only 30% of healthcare facilities in Africa have the right equipment and reagents to perform even the most basic tests. The issue is worsened by socio-economic problems where the poor have to spend a disproportionate amount of their income on healthcare, which is basically money down the drain when their condition is misdiagnosed and mistreated. It all begs the question, do African governments see healthcare through the same lens as developed nations?
No. It's an investment with measurable outcomes and returns. So when you have if you have a majority of your citizens not in optimal health, then it becomes an expense, it's a cost. And the cost of a misdiagnosis is 3 to 4 times an accurate diagnosis. So the most expensive treatment is the one that is the wrong treatment.
For laboratory healthcare workers, improving laboratory and diagnostic capabilities is now an urgent need for countries in Africa, so they can become self-sufficient in their ability to counter such threats. Dr. Theo Angata is a physician who's dedicated his career to helping those who can't reach healthcare facilities for diagnosis. He provides mobile services to people's homes.
Accurate and quick diagnosis is very important. The laboratory is there to assist, and we need to have laboratories have the capacity to be able to diagnose. We also need the imaging facilities, X-rays, MRIs, CT scans, and other advanced scans like PET scans to be more available to the people. But more importantly, we also need access to primary health care. And that's what I do personally, because we are able to get the doctor to the patient's home when they need the doctor most and be able to diagnose the patient quickly and effectively.
At the 76th World Health Assembly in May, member states addressed the challenge facing them, following a recommendation from the World Health Organization Executive Board. They voted to adopt a resolution to strengthen diagnostics capacities. The resolution was wide-ranging. It covered testing for infectious and non-communicable diseases and health conditions for pandemic prevention and preparedness, and to combat antimicrobial resistance. Artificial intelligence is now being seen as a real game changer in healthcare.
So you have a solution, we have tools in solutions in Roche where you have pathologists who are trying to diagnose, but then they have this backbone of an algorithm powered by AI that's able to then now establish that, okay, fine, my diagnosis is incorrect, that is what it is.
Analysts believe African governments must start realizing the benefits of investment in healthcare. If manufacturers on the continent can learn how to produce these diagnostic tools and healthcare workers can learn how to use them, then the days of money being wasted by the poor on misdiagnosis may be over. Nick Mudimba, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
And in more details, in Ghana, the indigenous craft of hand-woven smokes has been passed from one generation to the next as Ghanaians look to preserve their heritage. However, the cost of producing the garment has soared in the recent years because the yarn and almost all the materials used in making are imported. Smoke producers are now worried that the survival of their business is actually at risk. Let's have a look.
Akoliga has been sewing indigenous Ghanaian smocks for nearly 20 years. It's a skill he learned from his parents.
We want to sew the smock, we can go and buy.
When I was a young boy, my father always took me along with him to his workshop, where he makes the smocks. I observed how he puts the fabrics together and then stitches them. Over time, he taught me all I need to know about making the smock.
Many years ago, the indigenous handmade Ghanaian smock was a special garment worn by only chiefs and people of high status in society. Now, everyone can wear it as an everyday garment. The smock is an easy-to-wear piece of clothing. It doesn't need to be ironed before you put it on. It can be worn for all special occasions, from traditional weddings to funerals and other celebrations. Despite the wide use of the traditional clothing, materials used in producing it, like yarn, are imported because Ghana's cotton industry has virtually collapsed. The state-owned cotton company collapsed nearly 15 years ago due to mismanagement. Gabriel is worried that the high cost of production could kick them out of business.
The material also costs.
It's now very expensive to produce the smocks. We buy the yarn, threads, needles and everything at a very high cost because they're all imported. So we also have to increase the prices of the smocks.
Charles Appiah buys smocks from the producers in northern Ghana and sells them in Accra. He says a smock used to sell at $30 but is now selling at $100. So sales have gone down because many people cannot afford it.
To be frank, people like the smock, but they complain it is now too expensive. The government has to provide subsidies on the cost of importing the yarns and also support smock producers.
Charles Akoliga agrees. He believes a waiver in taxes on imported materials can help sustain his business while also preserving the culture of making the indigenous Ghanaian smock. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
The German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has met some of German Palestinians who were evacuated from Gaza. At a reception in Berlin, they had a chance to share some stories. Among them was a doctor who worked at the Al-Shifa hospital. Let's have a look at the details.
President Frank-Walter Steinmeier welcoming a group of people who have escaped hell. German Palestinians caught up in the war in Gaza. Now safe, they got the chance to share their stories with Germany's head of state.
He heard a lot from us. Everyone told their stories, what they experienced in Gaza and how they escaped in the first place. It was a good conversation.
Hazim Lulu's story is one of good fortune. He moved to Gaza with his German wife and had 5 children. They survived.
We decided from the beginning we live together and we die together. That's why we always slept on a mattress, on the floor, in the middle of the apartment, where we thought it would be safe. But there really isn't any place that is safe.
In contrast, Mohammed Judah's story is one of loss. He was visiting family when the war broke out.
I lost a brother. I lost my cousin with her 4 children. I also lost an uncle with 3 children.
And how were they killed?
By the Israeli raids. The houses were simply bombed without warning, and they were simply killed.
The story of Dr. Abu Nadas is one of relief and regret. Head of vascular medicine at the controversial Al-Shifa hospital, he knows where he's needed most.
He wrote, "The kidney doesn't work anymore." He got the kidney from his wife. "The kidney doesn't work anymore. Where are you, Mr. Doctor? I need to see you. I need you. I need you." I have the message on my cell phone. "I need you." I can't help him. When I arrived in Berlin, I had to write an address. While I was writing down my address, I realized the address no longer existed. Actually, I no longer have an address. The whole region is gone.
Outside, families brought together by horror say their goodbyes. Some faced with returning to normal life. Others with starting from.
And that brings us to the end of our lunchtime bulletin this afternoon. Thank you for being a part. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold. Stay tuned for more news in our subsequent bulletins later on today. Have yourself a good afternoon.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The family of Mr. Samuel Chegundu with deep sorrow announces the passing of their beloved wife, mother and grandmother, Mrs. Mebo Chegundu, which occurred on Sunday 19th November 2023 in Hyderabad, India. A vigil will be held at the